just a real perspective from real people talking about their daily lives with technology, and also with people creating content that normally probably would never create content, but something's inspired them to get in front of the camera and talk about their personal passions and sharing it with the community and trying to build that community. I really appreciate Simon from the Technically Simon YouTube channel coming on to Voices of the Enthusiasts to talk about his journey, and not only with technology but his recent journey into content creation. One of the things that I want to do to set this channel apart is having real conversations with people that go a little bit beyond just the surface level. And to me, it's more about sharing your passion and growing that passion and developing something bigger than just what brought you to the table. So building a community and evolving in your own content journey and your own perspective. This is the good thing about YouTube. What YouTube is given is some people that maybe not be the most creative or the most artistic. It's given them a chance to be creative and given them a voice. I'm continuing to find my voice within this channel. Things will become more polished, hopefully, but I still like kind of raw, unedited energy that let the conversation flow where it may flow. And I hope you enjoy it. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about how you developed your passion for all of this.
I've always been very enthusiastic about technology. Um, how I got into it, I suppose. I'm sorry, I'm an ex-firefighter. I was a firefighter in the UK, and I joined the fire service when I was 19 years old, and then I got promoted, and it was 1978. So I was 21 years old, and I'd been sent to another part of the country, a different fire station, and I got some accommodation, but I didn't really know any people in the area. I didn't have any close friends in the area, and I was sort of looking for a hobby, something to do. And if you remember your history, the sort of 1978 was the era of the first sort of personal computers you could actually buy yourself and use. And I bought you remember it, the Commodore PET. It was a sort of with a chiclet keyboard, had a green on black text screen, a cassette tape, and I started trying to teach myself BASIC. Remember the BASIC programming language? Literally doing the really basic stuff. The hello world, hello Simon. I know it sounds so tame these days, but at the time, it was such a new thing, and I got hooked on it, and it sort of developed a bit from there, I guess. And then as time progressed, the 80s came along, and I ended up investing more money in things like the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. I had a BBC Micro computer, the Commodore VIC-20, and later the Commodore 64. And then after that, as slightly more powerful things were coming along, the Amstrad CPC, the Atari ST, the Amiga. And then at about the late 80s, there started to be handheld devices, and that really hooked me. I don't know if you remember the original Scion organizer. It was a sort of massive UK success. It sort of slid open and it had you could plug in data packs to allow it to expand and do additional things. And then later in the late 80s, early 90s, you got into things like the Scion Series 3, which had a sort of clever sliding hinge with a keyboard. So these were PDAs really, rather not smartphones, because they didn't have a sort of connection like a SIM or anything like that in it. And then the Scion Series 5, the Palm Pilot. Remember the Palm Pilot with the graffiti, with the sort of special alphabet you had to learn? I used that for several years, and that was amazing technology. And I just because I'm of the age when I grew up as a young man, we didn't have any of that. It was all down to logarithmic tables and slide rules. Even calculators didn't arrive until I'd left school. So suddenly all this stuff, this was a real novelty to me, and I just got hooked. And then we got into the 2000s. I had a BlackBerry and used that for several years. Brilliant device. Um, and then the big release, obviously, the 2007 stroke 8, when the iPhone 3G first came out. And then in 2010, I think it was, I bought the iPad, my first iPad. Um, to be honest, I was quite a Apple fanboy for the first few years of the smartphones. I was all in on the Apple ecosystem. So I had the latest iPad, the latest iPhone, Apple TV when they came along. Um, and then I actually went to university as a mature student to do a fire engineering degree. While I was there, I got a bit more into app development because I started working for a company that did fire engineering investigations of businesses, and the engineers in the field, they needed to be able to record information about the companies they were going to. So I wrote an iPad app for them that they could take the iPad rather than using pen and paper, which they'd had to do up to then. So that got published on the App Store, and then I, started doing training and courses in more iPad development or software development, iOS, and started thinking, having wild thoughts of becoming a successful software developer. So I published a home inventory app on the App Store. Um, Needless to say, it didn't make me a millionaire, as you can tell by my surroundings, but I enjoyed it. And I was really into, as I say, all the Apple stuff for years. And then later on, sort of remember that when well, everyone remembers when the pandemic, we all got confined to home and things like that. I was getting a little bit bored with Apple, to be honest. Fantastic devices, but every year was just a slight iteration on the current system. So that's when I got into Android, and I bought my first Android flagship device. I think it was the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 with the S Pen in the bottom. Um, Fantastic device, love that. And the thing I liked about Android at the time, there was a lot of variety. Well, there still is. There's a lot of variety. You can get foldable devices, you can get flip phones. No, they're not scared to experiment with different form factors, different designs. So I've had all sorts over the last 5 or 6 years. So I've had the Galaxy Fold, several of their devices, um, right up to last year's Fold 7. I had one of those. Um, and I started, my wife said to me, "Well, you love this technology." And I watch YouTube all the time, and I watch all those incredible people like Marcus Brownlee and others. And she said, "Well, why don't you do it?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm a bit of an old fart, you know. It's look at these guys; they're all young, and look how professional they look and everything." And she said, "Well, what have you got to lose? Just do it, try it." And I watched a few YouTube channels of other people who said, "Well, if you don't do it, you'll never know. Just try it, give it a go." And so about a year ago, just over a year ago, um, I decided, right, I'm going to give it a go. And as you'll know, Sean, the learning process never stops. Um, right from the get-go, my sort of philosophy for the YouTube channel was, um, okay, what can be different to what other people do? If there's loads of people reviewing smartphones and things, but most of them are professional people and they get given devices and they write a review sort of within a week of getting the device, basically. And then they'll move on to the next device. So I thought, one, I'm not going to get given the devices like that, certainly not at this stage. Um, and also, I wanted to be more less technical detail, more personal opinion. What's it like if an old fart like me can use a smartphone? Then what do I like about that smartphone? What do I not like about the smartphone? Um, which ones do I like? That kind of thing. And then I started looking at other mobile devices. Did the Nintendo Switch 2, did some tablet devices, um, and that sort of brings me up to date almost. I've just recently done one on the iPhone 17. Yep, I've jumped ship again. I've gone back to Apple, and again I've now gone all in on Apple, mainly because I found that when I was trying to do my YouTube editing on my Windows laptop, even though it was a very powerful Windows laptop, it just struggled. It really struggled to process and render high quality 4K images. for video. And I saw that other people were using MacBooks. So they're not cheap devices, MacBooks, as most people will know. But I took the plunge. I went out and I bought a MacBook 4, MacBook Pro 4 with the M4 Pro chip inside it. It had 48 gigabytes of RAM, and basically compared to my Windows machine, it was a dream. Much faster, much clearer, and it rendered what used to take an hour or so was done in just a few minutes. Made a world of difference. And like you, I've probably tried all different types of filming techniques. You know, you do the headshots, you do the distance stuff. My wife used to follow me around with a portable device trying to film me in the natural environment. All these experiments, and you sort of you look at the quality of the stuff you make, and then you publish it on YouTube, and you think you look back and you are your own worst critic, obviously. And I look at my stuff and I think, oh my God, what a load of crap. Who's going to want to watch that? And the amount of stuff I've discarded and tried again. But as my wife said, just keep doing it, keep doing it. You'll never give in, keep trying. And then I did one YouTube video about 6 months ago. I think it was in December last year. And for some reason, it just really went wild. And I got tens of thousands of views from this particular video. And it was on the Oppo Pro 9. Um, I think it was a very in demand phone at the time, but also I did do it with that approach. I owned it for a couple of months, ran it, used it every day. And my review was from my own personal point of view, what I thought about the device and what I liked about the device. So that's I know you asked for a quick overview.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring up some of those things. Is I I am firmly in the grasp of PC and Mac and Android and Apple, and I don't think I could ever leave because there's things about both of them that I absolutely love. My primary machine that I have in my living room is a Lenovo Legion gaming laptop. I absolutely love using that. It is a dream to use. It's so fast and snappy, but then when it comes to video editing, you're right. It just becomes cumbersome and it doesn't render the way that the Mac can. Like, I can come up with the same footage and the same video and render them on both of them, and the Mac comes out so much better and then, of course, more efficient, it's faster. So, I had to go and get another Mac. I gave up my MacBook M2 Pro to my daughter because she was going to nursing school. And so I was like, well, this computer will last her forever. I have this brand new gaming PC and I love it and it's great. It's fantastic. But then I was like, I can't fully get out of the Mac universe because of this. And so I ended up getting the M5 base Mac Pro. But I ended up getting it with 32 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte, and I'm happy with that because for my use case, I'm not going to push it to its limits, and this will last me 4 to 5 years comfortably, in my opinion. But as you can see, I also am a Samsung. I just got the 26 Ultra about a month and a half ago, so I'm getting used to that again. So my last Samsung was the Galaxy Note, right prior to the one phone that blew up on everybody. I switched to Apple right before that. But I'm fully into both systems now, much to my wife's chagrin. Um, but
It's
yeah,
funny what you mentioned about the note. I'm no longer in the fire service, but I work for a fire protection company now, and I work as a emergency response trainer. So I go around to different companies and train their staff on how to respond in emergencies. And one of the questions we get often asked is about lithium-ion batteries and fires in lithium batteries, and often people bring up the note. Do you remember when the notes all caught fire and everything? Uh, so I try and reassure them because all it was Samsung had a very popular device at the time, and they needed to get some extra inventory because it was in such demand. So they placed an order for a battery supplier in China that they'd not used previously. And that particular batch of batteries, because they were a rush order, didn't have thermal cutouts in them. And that's why those ones caught fire. And I always explain to people, look, you're all walking around with one of these in your back pocket. It's got a lithium ion battery in it. If they caught fire all the time, you'd be hearing about people burning their arse off every day. It doesn't happen that often. But people, when they do catch fire and they go on TV, they're quite dramatic looking. So obviously people talk about it, but it really isn't that common. Not that common at all. So what gear do you use, Sean, for your video recording?
I use a combination of things depending on the scenario. Um, I'm using the Hollyland Lark. What is it? The Hollyland Lyra camera, 4K camera that they came out late last year, early this year. Um, I have several microphones that I kind of have in rotation. Currently, I'm using the wireless Mayano 200 PD 200W, and I'm kind of testing it out. This is the second or third time that I've used it, and I'm kind of happy with it. Um, uh, and so I've actually had one company, Fifine, that's reached out to me a couple of times and sent me some microphones for my personal opinion. I don't call it a review because I'm not an expert. I just my personal opinion, my personal experiences, and my use case.
Yeah, I used one of the five fines for a while.
Which one was that?
I knew you'd ask me that, and I can't remember. Can't remember. I've got at the moment I'm using on my desktop. I use this, which is I can't really stretch the cable far enough, but it's a Rode video mic. So this is a wired one. So this is one I wire directly to my MacBook if I'm doing stuff at the desktop. But generally, most of my stuff I do is talking head. So in front of the camera, which I tend to do in my living room.
Yeah.
And I've just recently bought, so I bought a new Sony camera, and I use this microphone on the top, the shotgun microphone, and it's a direct digital connection into the camera itself. And I've been very impressed with this. I've only done a couple of videos with it so far, but the quality of the sound has been superb. And that's sat, sort of 1.5 to 2 meters in front of me, and yet it still sounds very good. And very impressed with the camera as well. This was a fairly major investment.
Which camera is it?
So this one is the Sony ZV-E1, and it's a 35 millimeter lens, and it's a GM lens, which is a very high quality lens. But it means it's got quite a good aperture adjustment, and you can get very shallow depth of field. So it tends to blur the background behind me quite nicely. Obviously, I'm not using that at the moment, so you can see the background behind me here. But in my living room, which is where I normally sort of record my YouTubes, it blurs the background out very nicely. And it took me, well, as I say, it started a year ago, and I've tried all sorts of things to try and get that professional look, that the talking head in focus, the product you're looking at in focus, but the rest of the room nicely blurred. And I tried all sorts. I've tried it in software. I've tried it using different cameras and hardware. Nothing's worked up until this, and now this really works. This is the other
Maybe one
one I
day.
use. Remember?
Oh yeah, well,
Pocket.
which one?
Yeah, the little
The Pocket 3?
DJI Pocket 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, I use this one. This is my sort of mobile device.
Yeah.
This is the one my wife often uses to film me doing stupid things with products.
Yeah. Do you like that?
I do. I mean, it's not as good, certainly with depth of field as my Sony camera, but for mobile use, out and about, fantastic. My wife and I are going on a holiday to Japan. It's our sort of dream holiday next year, and we've been looking at YouTube, people who do cruise ships and all that. So we're going on a cruise, and so we've decided we're going to try and record the cruise ourselves. So we'll probably end up using this.
Yeah, so I invested in my first kind of camera like that recently, because we're gonna go on a small little vacation this year, and then early next year we're going on early spring we're going on a cruise, and I want to have a camera, but I'll probably have two by that time. I bought the extra Atto, which is the knockoff version, or depending on who you asked, of the DJI Nano.
Right.
I don't know. Right. So I plan on actually filming some talking heads with that just to try it out and talk about my experiences with it. I don't think it'd probably be it might be even a little bit better in these 4K webcams.
I think they're these things are remarkably good quality for considering their small size. I've been
Yeah,
quite impressed. You can get some good 4K footage on something this
yeah.
size. And I have tried the DJI Nano as well. So very similar results to this. So how do you edit your software? So once you've done your recording, what software are you using to prepare it?
You're gonna you're gonna be ashamed of me on this one. I use CapCut.
Oh, right. No, I'm not. I looked at CapCut. I did try it. I've actually gone for Descript. So similar kind of, it's an all-in-one AI enhanced editing software. Now I've tried all the, the more professional packages, Final Cut Pro and DaVinci Resolve and those kind of packages, and they are brilliant, no doubt about it. But boy, they're a steep learning curve. And I can imagine in a studio where you've got people who know how to do all this kind of thing, they're probably capable of a lot more. But I'm just after something that's fairly easy and fairly intuitive to use.
Yeah. My theme of this channel and talking to people and just when I'm doing a talking head is I'm not a professional, and I want to do things in a way that is comfortable for me and works for my use case, and that goes for the gadgets and me editing videos. And CapCut works for me because if I feel like editing by text to edit, I can do that. If I don't feel like it, I can edit more traditionally. I don't do anything crazy. So like Final Cut, Adobe Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, it would kind of be lost on me. I am now stepping into the Adobe Premiere because I've gotten a little bit of a discount on that. Um, and I also got the discount on Final Cut because they got this creator package now.
Yeah, only, well, I don't know what price it is in America, $12 or something in America.
Yeah, and I got it similar for the Adobe one because I get the educator discount because I work for a school district now. And so like I was like, all right, 25, $27 a month for both of them. I'll try to learn. It's still really like I find myself like I just want to get the video out. I'm not gonna play around with it. So I'm like, I just go back to CapCut because it's just so comfortable. But I want to learn it because I know CapCut is uh last year it was down for like 3 months or something like that because of the whole TikTok ByteDance thing here in the United States. And so I wasn't able to use it. So I was scrambling to use all these different things. And so yeah, I've like I gotta learn a little bit of something. I actually went back to iMovie.
Well, some people said they've used that as a basic, and then once they've learned that, they step up to Final Cut. So when I was using my Windows laptop, that's what I used, DaVinci Resolve. Um, but I was only using like, 5-10% of its capabilities. And you can do so much more in it. But as you, this is a hobby for me. This isn't my job. I guess if it was your job, you'd learn it more in and
Yeah.
out. But I just want something that's fairly straightforward and easy to use. When I first started using or doing the editing a year ago, I tried Descript then, and unfortunately, it was a little bit there and a bit flaky. Wouldn't Didn't handle the high res video. Couldn't do 4K at that time. It was only 1080p. But in the last year, with the advent of all the AI progress, it's gone on leaps and bounds, and it's now much more powerful. And it's amazing how well it works.
I did try it in the beginning, and like you, I was like underwhelmed by it. But now that I know that, I might give it a try for a month.
It's a lot more solid than it was, and it now does full 4K at 60
Mm.
FPS if you want. I don't do 60 FPS, but if you want to, you can. And what I like is that transcript bit. So you've got your video one side and you've got your transcript on the other, and you just edit the transcript and it cuts out the bits of video you don't want.
Yeah.
And if you get into the AI, their underlord, they call it, you can literally just say, get rid of all my ums and ahs and double takes and all this sort of stuff. And it will go through and just auto magically, they're all gone. Very clever. Have a look. I've been impressed with it the last. I've been using it exclusively now for the last probably 3 months, um,
Hmm.
and I'm obviously still learning every time I use it. But it
Yeah.
does a lot more than it did a year ago. And the main thing for me now is with using it on the MacBook, I've just been impressed with how reliable it is. It just works.
So coming back to the Mac from the PC, what did you like about the PC and what you kind of miss about the PC?
People get very critical of Microsoft and Windows and everything. I've always been absolutely fine with Windows, and
Hmm.
I use a Windows PC, a laptop for my work, and I like PowerPoint, I like Excel, I might like Microsoft Word, I like Microsoft products. The thing is, you can get them on the Mac anyway, most of them. Um, is there anything I missed from the Windows PC? I think if I was big into gaming, that would be a big loss. But I'm not big into gaming on a laptop. I've just been, my big news today, I've just been shortlisted for the Steam machine.
Oh,
I put in a request for one and I had the email this morning saying, yes, you've been allocated one. So that's how I will be doing my gaming. So I've got a Steam library of games, and I could play those on the Windows laptop. But I'm an old bugger, as you can see, and my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. So I like to sit down in front of a huge, great TV screen when I'm gaming, not a smaller laptop screen.
yeah.
So I don't do. I mean, I love all the mobile tech and the mobile phones, but I don't do gaming on phones um, unless I'm sat waiting somewhere and I just want to kill a bit of time. But it's not sort of mega graphical games I'm playing. It's just little pass the time of day type games.
I bought the gaming machine just for its power, and I thought, oh well, I can sell my Xbox and use it towards the computer itself, the laptop itself, and then I'll have still have some access to games. I haven't gamed that much because, like you, I'm so used to playing on a big screen, and it's like, but I kind of been testing it out a little bit more, and I do like having access to the Steam library and all that um, with the PC stuff. But like you, never into anything crazy with the mobile phones. I'll play like blackjack or poker or hearts or something like that on the phone, but that's about the extent of my gaming on that.
Same.
Yeah. I was been really impressed with the Chinese phones,
Oh, some of them are
and
amazing, aren't they? The hardware, superb.
it's really hard for us here in the United States to do that because we don't have like
Yeah, you guys get quite limited on what you can buy, don't natively. You can import, but very difficult to buy something off the shelf over there if it's not from Samsung or Apple.
yeah, we got the three. We've got Samsung, Apple, Google. Anything beyond that is very difficult.
Well, on the plus side, you've
It,
got three of the best. But yeah, it's I've used some of the OnePlus. I've used Oppo phones, and there are some amazing hardware. And it's a little bit disappointing that companies like Samsung and Apple aren't a little bit more adventurous. I guess they will eventually, but even some of the things like the size of the batteries inside the Chinese phones, they're looking at 7,000, 7,500, 8,000. Oh, I mean, just huge batteries. And
yeah,
where my top of the range iPhone here, Pro Max, it's 4,800. It's a good battery. I mean, I think mainly because of Apple's software, the battery life is very good on it. But if it had a 6,000 milliamp hour battery, I'd be talking about 2 or 3 days out of it. Be amazing.
yeah. I think what's so interesting is about Samsung and Apple in particular is they have such great software and they've integrated it into their hardware to make it run so efficiently that if they could just push the envelope just a couple more inches, they could blow everything out the water. It's almost like they're purposely putting a cap on things.
Letting the other, other companies steal an edge. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think they are. I think they're just ultra cautious, and
yeah,
they. It's like that Note uh, phone catching fire. Samsung never ever wants that to happen again,
yeah.
and so they're very cautious. Um, there are rumors that the next iPhones might be pushing the battery limit a bit higher, and they may be looking at something like silicon carbon batteries. We don't know, but rumors.
Mm,
I hope they
yeah.
do. I hope they do. When you first start the bench test on it, they're amazing. But once they've been running for 10, 15 minutes, they heat up and they start to throttle down the performance, or that's what I've read. And I can imagine that. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're a chipset designer, particularly if you're making chipsets for multiple phones, different manufacturers, there must be a temptation sometimes to design those chipsets specifically for the benchmark software. So they'll perform really well on the benchmarks, but does that translate to real world use?
Mhm.
And I think you only really get to know that when you've got the phone in your sweaty hands and you're trying it out. It is one of the advantages I think Apple has always had, that they make both the hardware and the software to their specifications. Well, they don't make them, TSMC make the chips, but they make them to Apple's specification. So they can very closely tie together the hardware and the software.
Mm,
And with the Android phones, that's not quite so. I know that Google now do it in the Pixel phones. They've got their own tensor chips, so they're better able to tie it into the tensors. But again, Google kind of throttles themselves because the software, they have to make it available for all the other manufacturers. So they
right.
can't too closely tie it into the tensor chip. Um, Samsung have a good relationship with the chip manufacturers because they're such a huge company. So they probably get
Mm,
some input into the design of the chips, but they're never going to quite be the same as Apple from that point of view.
no. Have you ever owned a Pixel phone?
Yeah, I had the Pixel last year. The
Mm,
Pixel, oh, blimey, I forget what it's called now. The last one. Is it,
10?
was it Pixel 10? Yeah. And I had
Yeah.
the Pro, the large one, Pixel 10 Pro. Very nice phone. I liked it a lot. And one of the one of the things that annoys me a little bit with Samsung and some of the others, and which I did like about Google, I love this thing, the MagSafe, as Apple calls
Yeah.
it. And with the iPhone, it's actually built into the phone, so you don't need a case on. You've got the
Yeah.
magnetic attachments. And Google did exactly the same with the last line of Pixel phones. Brilliant,
Yeah.
fantastic. I even kept, where is it here? There you go. That was from my Google phone, my Pixel phone. And
Yeah.
that was the magnetic attachment that goes on the back to give you a stand. And I like that. And I wish when Samsung announced the S26 series, I'd been hoping they were going to put the magnets in the back of the phone. So I was a bit disappointed they didn't do that.
Okay.
This one,
But
Sean
yeah. Yeah.
Pitaka. Yeah,
Pataka, yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
I got one of these for the iPhone as well.
You like them?
Oh, I think they're brilliant because for a while I tried to sort of use phones without a case on them because I like
Yeah.
they build such beautiful devices. It's almost a shame
Yeah.
to put a huge, great chunk of plastic on it. And the beauty of
Mhm.
Pitaka is they make it very minimalist, very thin.
Yeah.
So it gives you some scratch resistance and a little bit of
Mhm.
protection if you drop it. But most importantly, it gives you that magnetic ring, which I like. And these are beautiful, made out of the carbon fiber, the Kevlar kind of finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful phone, but it's not the one I'm rocking on my case at the moment. On my phone, sorry, I've gone with the Taurus.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more substantial, but again, they do the built-in stand, which I like. So
Yeah, I like that.
you can get the magnetic stand to go on the back of the Pitaka one. So this is their own magnetic from Pitaka itself, and that'll go.
Okay.
That clicks on the back and then comes out. Oh, flying all over the place. That then gives you that magnetic stand on the
Yeah.
back. So you can do that, but then it adds that extra
Yeah.
bit of depth.
Yeah. Are you gonna get an Android?
Not at the moment. I'm waiting to see. Um, one is I've spent an absolute small fortune. I'm surprised my wife hasn't divorced me over the last 12 months because I've reviewed,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know, 10, 11 phones, and every single one of them I bought with my own money. So, when I eventually pass on, I'm not leaving a lot because I've spent it all. So
Yeah.
I'm having a little bit of a pause. I bought the iPhone, so my next review is going to be I'm actually going to go through some of the MagSafe accessories that you can get. You know how you can
Mhm.
augment your phone using these add-ons. I've got an iPad Mini. Um, Ta-da!
Oh, cool.
Nice little iPad Mini. So I'll do a review on that one
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And the next actual phone I buy, I'm going to wait and see what Apple brings out in September. If the rumors are true and they bring out the folding one, I think I might have to have a look at that.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to because I thought the last Samsung, the Fold 7, was a lovely device, very thin, very lightweight for what it is, very impressive device. The only sort of bit I didn't like about it, I found the edges of the phone around here on the corners was very squared off, and it was a little
Mhm.
bit uncomfortable when you're holding it in your hand like this. That was the only
Mhm.
thing that put me off it a bit. Um, so the Pixel Fold, that's got a nice rounded corner. That's more comfortable to hold in your hand, but it's not as slim as the Samsung Fold 7. So I'm very interested to see what Apple do with their next phone. So if it's a folding phone, I think I might be tempted to get one of those. If it's not, I don't know. I'm not swearing off Android phones forever because there's some amazing devices. So I might see what comes out, what's available. And the beauty is here in Australia, anyway, we're able to get most of those phones. We can, so companies like OnePlus, like Oppo, they actually have their own sales arms in Australia. So you can buy them direct from the
Yeah.
company. And others you
Yep.
can get quite easily imported from Hong Kong. We have
Mhm.
several importers who can bring in most of those phones, and even Amazon. I tried a couple of the TCL phones with the sort of next paper screens, those very matte screens.
Hmm.
And I can buy those through Samsung. Sorry, I can buy those through Amazon Australia. So
Oh wow.
that came from them. So yeah, we've got access to most of the phones that you can see on the market these days. It's just the price. Depends what you're paying for it.
What is? How long have you been in Australia?
Oh, I moved here in 2017,
Mm.
so 9 years now. Lived in the UK most of my life. I actually lived in Australia as a kid. So
Oh,
I was born in Africa, in Nigeria. My father was a British colonial officer, and he was posted to Africa, and that's where I was born. And then we moved to Singapore, only briefly, and then we went to Papua New Guinea, where my sister was
wow.
born, one of my sisters. And then we moved to Queensland in Australia, and I lived in Queensland until I was 10 years old. And then we moved to England. I lived in England most of my life, but I've had an Australian part. I've had dual nationality most of my life, so I could
Wow.
move to Australia whenever I wanted. But life kind of gets in the way. You know, you have children, you're married, and all that kind of thing. But then, unfortunately, I ended up getting divorced in the UK, in 2010. And after that, I started thinking, right, I wouldn't mind living in a bit of sunshine. Don't get me wrong, I love England and I love the English. I think I like the British sense of humour. I like most of the things about the country. It's just extremely crowded. 75 million people crammed into a tiny little area, 1/5 of the size of the state I now live in. So a bit of space is nice. And also, I just love the weather over it. It must be more similar to where you are on the northwest coast.
Well, we're more similar to the UK.
Oh, are you? You're further north,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
California.
No, we're. I'm pushing up to the Canadian border on the very northwest tip. Yeah. No, I grew up more. You would be right at home at the cloudy days and drizzle, constant drizzle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's what I
We
wanted to
live.
get away from.
Yeah, yeah. I live right off. We call it the Puget Sound in Washington State. So we're right off the ocean, basically. It's just an offshoot of the ocean. But I grew up a little about 3 hours south in Portland, Oregon. But it's the same thing. We just moved to a little bit greener and a little bit wetter area. But we spent a little over 10 years in the Midwest, which is like it's like Australia in the summer, hot and humid, and it's like oh, I don't know, it's cold in the winter. So
Well, the thing about it here is it's quite amazing. So this is we're right in the middle of the winter now. So
yeah,
it was our darkest day about 3 days ago or something, and yet the sun is shining. It's not. It's funny how you acclimatize. So when I
yeah,
came over here, I would consider 21, 22 degrees centigrade to be a nice warm day. Now 21, 22 is a bit chilly, so I've got a jumper on. It's not warm over here until it's in the 30s
yeah,
centigrade.
yeah. Well,
I'm at that age where I'm starting to think of retiring in a year or two, and my wife has been looking. So if we're going to move, we'd probably move a bit further south in Western
mhm,
Australia, because as you get further south, it gets a bit cooler. So the summers over here, we can get certain weeks when it's extremely hot, very hot. The beauty is certainly here where we are on the southwest coast, it doesn't get very humid. It tends to be a dry heat. So it gets
mm,
hot, but you're not sticky hot. Whereas some of the more northern areas can be very tropical. If you go up to the Northern Territory and places like that.
I've never been, but Google Earth is a great thing, and then you can read about it and everything. And Australia is definitely, if you've never been to the States, it's the closest thing to the United States.
I've been to the States. We had some very good friends who owned a bar in Florida on Lake
Yeah.
Tampa in the northwest of Florida, and it was called the Tarpon Turtle on Lake
Mhm.
Tarpon, and we used to go and stay with them every year for about 10 years. So we'd go and do, say, a week in Orlando at Disney World with the kids, and then we'd go over to the West Coast and spend a week with our friends on the lake. We did that for about 10 years. So I wouldn't say I know America, but I know Florida reasonably well, that bit anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can imagine, yeah, I mean, I love that part of the world, beautiful part of the world, but I haven't been to much. I've been through New York. Um, my older brother Keith, he lives over there in New Mexico, so he's lived in America most of his life. He lived in Texas for many years, and then he moved further south to New Mexico. So I don't. I love America, and I think America and Australia have quite a bit in common in many
Yeah.
ways, both geographically, you know, but also culturally. I think we have a
Yeah.
sort of similar culture to each other.
Very much so. Yeah, it's so interesting to me that I just looking through it and just seeing the how things are like splayed out, like even like your shopping areas or your industrial areas. It just totally reminds me, hey, this is the United States. You just drive on the wrong side of the road.
I was going to say, and yet we drive on the right side of the road.
Yeah. With tech is how is I watched some channels talk about getting laptops and stuff like that. That's a little more difficult. Have you found that to be the case with Australia?
Not really,
With
no.
Australia?
I think when I first moved here, which was, as I say, 9 years ago, um, we Amazon were hardly in the country at all. Uh,
Mm,
but Amazon have been growing and growing over here, and they've got very big distribution warehouses now all over the country. So with a lot of items, I can place an order, now, and it'll be here tomorrow from
oh, wow.
Amazon. So we've got all that kind of thing, and there are plenty of other companies. Not as good as America, not as good as I was used to in the United Kingdom, we're probably I'd say about 5 years behind when it comes to distribution and access.
Mhm,
Um, but if you're prepared to wait, you can get
yeah.
everything. And then we do get some advantages in that we're closer to Asia, closer to Hong Kong,
Mhm.
and to
Yeah.
China. So we can get stuff from China quite quickly, usually. Um, and the actual mainstream tech, I think, is pretty much the same as any other Western country. We've got all the AI that you guys have. We've got all the streaming channels. We've got all that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't think it's. But I live in the Perth metro area. One of the biggest cities on in the country, and we've got access to all that stuff. I think there's a lot of regional Australia where it's a lot less accessible. It takes days or weeks even to get things in some areas because
Yeah.
they're so
Yeah.
remote. The country is absolutely huge, vast country, and there's only
Yeah.
25 million people in it.
Like Western Australia is more rural
But
than
we're one of the remote.
Eastern.
Perth is one of the most remote cities in the world.
Yeah.
We're thousands of kilometers away from the next major capital city. Thousands of kilometers. I can't jump in my car and drive to Adelaide or to Brisbane or Sydney or anywhere like that. I've got to get in an aeroplane and fly for 5 or 6 hours.
How long would it take you to drive? Like,
Well, I was talking to my son-in-law today. He's taking part in a rally over in the eastern states in Queensland, which starts in about 2 weeks' time. So I said, how you, because he's been building the car over here and he's going to drive it across there. And it's excuse the language, but it's called the shitbox rally. So they all build a shitbox. They're not allowed to spend more than $1,000 on this vehicle. And then they're taking part in a rally, a race. And then at the end of the race, all the cars are donated to charity. They sell them off. And any money they raise is donated to the charity. Anyway, you were asking how long it takes. So he's going to be driving the car across with his co-driver, and they've allowed a week to drive there because they've got to cross the whole country. And there's two ways of going. They can go up north over the top, or they go down south across the Nullarbor. So the Nullarbor is one of the longest roads in the world without anything on it. There's one bit where you can drive, I think it's 850 kilometers without passing another home or a turnoff.
And so there's nothing that goes across?
Yeah, you've got the trains. There's a train that runs along the Nullarbor, and obviously a lot of the road trains, the road traffic goes along there. And there'll be like a petrol station maybe halfway or something like that. But you drive along, you see a sign, next fuel stop 400 kilometers. Make sure you're full.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's remote down there.
Yeah, when I talk to people in the UK and Ireland, they can't conceptualize that.
No, because you can't drive more than about 5 kilometers without hitting someone else over there. That's a long drive without seeing something. Yeah, when I was first here, my company sent me on a drive to Kalgoorlie, which is in Western Australia, but that's right across on the eastern side of the state, and we're over on the western side. And I had to drive there, and I drove at one point. You're driving along this road. It's called the Rabbit Proof Fence, which gives you an idea. This was from 150 years ago when they put this fence up to stop the rabbits going berserk. And it's a dirt track. Basically, it's a packed red dirt track, and you drive along this thing. And there's a section I went along for about 85 kilometers, about 50 miles. And it's been packed, but the rain's worn it away, so it's corrugated. And you're driving along this surface that's corrugated, and you've got this the whole time, and this for about 50 miles. Oh my God, I was shaking. The vehicle was shaking to bits, and it was a very hot day. It was 42 degrees on the thermometer. So what's that? 110 or something?
Yeah, it's up there.
So yeah, that was a point as well. I had no mobile phone signal, and I never passed another vehicle. Another vehicle never came in the other direction for about 2 hours. And I thought, if I break down here, I'm in a world of hurt. And I told my company when I got back, and they said, well, why didn't you take a sat phone? And I said, well, nobody told me to take a sat phone.
That's it.
It's improved now because things like the Samsung phones, the iPhones, they've now got satellite connectivity. So you've got some sort of, you can do a text message now if you were to break down somewhere like that.
Yeah, that's so important. Like, what's the point of having all this technology if
You can't use it.
it's limited? Like, yeah, I mean that is so important.
Yep.
Uh,
We've got Starlink over here now. So
yeah.
so if you're in an RV and you're driving across the desert or something, they've got Starlink. They can get a signal. It's a lot better than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the
rising costs,
RAM shortages and everything. Yeah, yeah. Well, I was just reading an article this morning, and they were saying that the next MacBooks, the new Ultra models, they might be delaying them now to 27, because what they're going to do is they're waiting for the next M7 chip. You've just got the M5. I've got an M5 as well.
Yeah.
But they reckon the M7, they're going all in on the AI. It's going to have much more neural processing in it, and I think that's the way computers are going to go. It's going to be all in on AI processing power as much as CPU and GPU power. But yeah, you've got to hope that whenever there's a shortage of something, like there's a shortage of RAM and storage now, SSDs and everything, you've got to think that somebody's going to step in and fill that gap, because where there's a shortage, prices goes up. That's an opportunity for someone. So someone's going to start manufacturing the stuff, but it's just going to be that year or two of pain while they ramp up production. But eventually, I think the prices will start to come back down again.
That's why I bought 2 computers within a month and a half because I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, "If I'm gonna do it, I better do it now." And I'm so glad I did.
Well, Matt, Apple have just put the prices of all their products up, haven't they? Well,
Yeah.
all the iPads and the MacBooks, and the top of the range MacBook, I couldn't believe it. That had gone up 1,300 US dollars. Wow. I know it's got a lot of RAM in it, but wow, that's a
Yeah.
jump. I'll tell you what was
Yeah.
quite funny, Sean. I was telling my wife this morning, when I reserved the Steam machine, I had the option of reserving a 512 gigabyte or a 2 terabyte one. Well, the 2 terabyte one is 500 Australian dollars more than the 512 gigabyte one. I thought, bloody hell, that's a hell of a premium for that extra bit of storage. But let's see if I can find it. When I sold my last Windows laptop, I put some extra storage in it. So this is a 2 terabyte SSD, Samsung SSD. And when I
Yeah.
bought this a year ago, this SSD cost me $238. If I wanted to buy it now, $550. More than
150.
more than doubled in price. So that's going in my Steam machine.
Awesome. Yeah. If they can maximize the technology and do stuff with less or with things that are just easier to manufacture, smaller, just I'm all for it.
Streamlining, making it more efficient. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you use AI to enhance your channel at all?
I used, as I said, I used Descript and I used the Underlord AI built in there. I use AI pretty much every day. Um, I'm probably not a highly technical AI user. I often just ask questions. I tend to jump on AI
Mm.
now where I used to go on Google and search for something. So
Yeah, me too.
I just, and I think I always double check. I'm always quite careful because they do make mistakes. So when I ask
Oh
for
yeah.
specifications for a mobile phone, I look through it because sometimes there'll be something that's just wrong, plain wrong. So you do have to double check it. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of uses, some because I when I do my YouTube channel, when I was learning, if you like, I tried different ways of doing it. So the talking head, and I tried doing a script, following a script, and I had an Elgato, uh, what do you call it? One of those machines to show the script in front of the camera.
Hmm.
Um, and no matter how I tried, I just sounded robotic. I didn't like,
Yeah.
and you could see my eyes going from side to side and this kind of thing. So I don't do that anymore. What I try and do now is I'll print out some notes in large text so I can see it at a distance, and I'll hang it underneath the camera I'm looking at. But all I put on the notes is not a script, it's just bullet points of the main things to remind
Yeah.
me what to cover. And then I try and talk naturally. And what I find
Yeah.
is I often have to maybe say something 2 or 3 times, because the first time I
Yeah.
say it, I'm staring at the text below the camera. So the second
Yeah.
time I'll try and say it from memory, and hopefully I'll get better at that the more often I do it. So I will use the AI to help me get the notes in the first place.
Hmm.
Um, and funnily enough, I discovered something yesterday which I hadn't. I'd never seen on my YouTube channel before. I put a video up about 7 or 8 days ago on this iPhone, the iPhone 17
Yeah.
Pro Max, and it's been quite successful. It's had quite a few thousand views, and I went and I was just looking at the channel stats yesterday, and there was a new bit, a new AI button appeared underneath it, and the button basically said, "Do you want to do an AI?" I can't remember the exact wording, but something like, "Do you want to do an AI review of the performance of your
Mm.
video?" And I clicked on that, and it was very useful because it told me at what points people were most engaged in the video, at what point did people stop watching it, and then it gave some suggestions. Said for your next video, you could try this, and you could try this, and that would help you make this bit of the video better. So that was AI sort of coaching me on how to improve my next video.
Yeah.
So I'll use AI for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm sort of I've mainly used Gemini, Google Gemini, because
Mm.
I've got a Google account, obviously because of my YouTube channel, but previously on Android devices, and
Right.
I kind of like Gemini. I'm into it. Um, we can all laugh about Siri because, to be honest, it's crap.
Yeah.
There's hope that it might get better in the next version. The early signs are it is going to be better. Whether it'll be good as Gemini and some of the others, we'll wait and see. The jury's out on that one. But
Yeah.
I've been playing with Claude a bit over the last 2 or 3 months, and I've put the Claude desktop app on my computer, and I've got
Mm.
the Claude Cowork, which gives it
Mm.
access into the files on my MacBook. And I've done a few experiments with tidying up a couple of directories. That kind of, it's capable of a whole lot more. I'm not a coder, although I dabbled in the past. I'm not a coder, um, but I might try and use it a little bit more to help me with that kind of thing. And I saw another YouTuber uh, the other day explaining how you can use this Claude Design. They have Claude Design. It's a beta part of the software, but he uses it if he wants to put like a animated explanation diagram on the YouTube channel. He now uses Claude Design to do that. So he was showing one where he's doing a comparison between Chat GPT and Grok AI. And rather than drawing the comparison table himself, he gave it to Claude Design and said, "I want
Mm.
an animated comparison table." And it was superb. So I might have a look at using Claude Design to so if I'm maybe illustrating a piece of technology and I'd like to explain what the different buttons around the phone do, I'm going to see if I can get Claude Design to give me an animated pointer as I talk, explaining the different things I'm talking about. So I'm going to try that. Whether it works or not is to be found out. I had because I'd looked at Claude initially a few months ago and not really gone there, and then people started talking about this Claude co-work and how powerful it was. But to be honest, the main reason I sort of decided to give it more of a try was when the Trump government tried to block them and made them a, you know, persona non gratis in America. That immediately made me think, oh right, you bastards, I'll give it a go. And I think it actually probably did Claude more good than harm because I think a lot of people had a similar feeling.
Since you were in the fire industry, you were a fireman and all that, how has tech evolved in that industry and really helped with everything from fighting fires to investigating in them all that?
I suppose it's not helped so much with the bare knuckles of the job, getting in and putting out a fire.
Yeah.
There are things like thermal imaging cameras and stuff like that have improved. I suppose the way it has helped the firefighters themselves is some of the using satellite navigation to navigate to the job.
Mm.
So we've got better
Mhm.
communication now. We
Right.
can get to the job quicker. Um, where it has helped more is in preventing them happening in the first place. So buildings are better designed. I did a fire engineering degree, as I mentioned, and so we're much better at designing buildings now, both
Mhm.
to stop fires happening in the first place, but also make it better and easier to get out of a burning building than it used to be. Um, so the fire brigade has evolved in that way, and they have far more of a prevention role now. So they go out and they talk to people to help them. And we get involved in designing buildings now, fire engineering and that kind of thing. Investigation. For a year or so, I was a fire investigation officer, and we used to go and look at when a fire had started, what had caused it, and why it had started. Were there any suspicious circumstances? And there are better tools now for looking into the detail, uh, electron microscopes and stuff like that, and you can see the depth of char patterns and things like that in a building. So technology has helped, certainly to an extent, but, and I think that's one of the beauties, if I was, coaching younger people these days about what to do as a career, very difficult, because I think a lot of middle tier jobs, white collar jobs, are going to disappear over the next few years because of AI. So if you're going to do something, go into something where you do need hands on. You need to be practical. So yeah, firefighting, police, first aid, ambulance, plumbers, electricians, all those sort of things. You're still going to need to be able to crawl around a building and fix a leaked pipe until we get to the stage where androids take over absolutely everything, I guess. And I'm not talking about
Yeah.
Android phones here. Um,
Right.
but I think technology's wormed its way into lots and lots of jobs and careers, but some less than others. So, from a firefighting point of view, not a lot has changed really. The fundamentals of the job are pretty much the same. Some of the technology is a bit better in and around the crew cabs and things like that, and
Yeah.
not so much AI or computerization, but just the breathing apparatus and stuff is slightly better, and that's as much down to better quality, engineering and products rather than computers as such. So
Right. Yeah, that's more human ingenuity more than.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. How do you see firefighting different from in Australia and maybe even the United States and the UK?
I suppose America and Australia may be more similar in some ways because we have a lot more in the way of bushfires. You don't call them bushfires over there, wildfires, or what do you call them over
Wildfires.
wildfires?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that in Australia. So firefighting over here um, deals with a lot of that kind of incident. And I know that in California and places like that in the Midwest, you're going to get a lot of that kind of thing as well. Whereas where I came from in the UK, where I was a firefighter, it was nearly all, we're talking about structural firefighting inside buildings, and factories
Hmm.
and warehouses and that kind of thing. And to be honest, I think probably about 50% of the incidents I attended in the UK, they they're often as not, it was road accidents. That kind of a lot of road accidents, RTAs. Uh,
Yeah.
and firefighting's changed, as I said, we're a lot more preventative than we used to. When I first joined in the mid 70s, we were a very reactive service. We went
Hmm.
out and put out fires or cut people out of cars. Nowadays, they do a lot more preventative work. They go around and they try and prevent the fires happening in the first place. In some ways,
Yeah.
probably more exciting when I was a young fiery. We went to a lot more fires then than they do now. But that shows we're doing the right job. We're stopping fires. I've always felt myself that if you're going to do a job like the fire brigade, or if you're going to be a police officer, one of my sons is a police officer, or
Hmm.
a nurse, a GP, a doctor, an AMBO, anybody like that, if you're going to do that kind of career, that kind of job, you've got to be able to cope with the stress.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to, you know, I say laugh it off because obviously that's not the right, if you see something horrible, it's not nice to laugh at it. But we all have a coping mechanism. So it's like when we watch, you see videos of somebody having a pratfall and falling over on ice and injuring themselves and going down hard, and we laugh. And the reason we laugh is it's a human coping mechanism.
Yeah.
If you fell and smacked your ass on the ice, that would hurt, and you wouldn't probably laugh about it. But your people
Yeah.
around you are going to laugh, and it's not
Yeah.
because they like you being hurt. It's a coping mechanism. And I think
Mm.
it's the same if you're going to be in one of those services and the armed forces, places like that. You've got to be able to take the stress and cope with it. Now, some of that you've got to internalize and you just cope with it your best way. But if you're the type of person who's going to get stressed up because you see somebody injured, then don't do that job. Don't do that career. And I know that's a very
Mhm.
flippant thing to say and easy for me to say, but that's my feeling. I think you've got to be able to cope with that kind of work. Having said that, I think you're right as well. If you've got a coping mechanism outside that helps, whether it's coming and de-stressing, whether it's just sitting down, watching a good movie, having a hobby that you enjoy and you can concentrate on, that's good as well. That helps. But don't rely on it. If you can't cope with the stress in the first place,
Mm.
because the danger is you become somebody who just goes and maybe drinks to cope. And I like a drink,
Mm.
believe me, I love a drink, but I don't want to drink to cope.
Yeah.
I drink because I enjoy drinking.
Yeah. Right. No, you bring up. There's a fine line there, and I can definitely understand where you're understand where you're coming from. I think if you can't decompartmentalize a job, then to your personal life, and it becomes too much of a stress for you, yeah, you gotta quit doing it.
You've got to rethink it.
Um,
Yeah.
I've seen so much of it. I've seen where it's just destroyed people, and they've destroyed their lives in the meantime. So yeah, it's crazy here in the US that we still do not have comparable internet. We're still dealing with some pretty shady speeds. We have to pay for to get to what a basic level is that you guys are getting. How is your internet speeds compared to the UK?
Um, Good, actually, not bad. One of the things I liked about Australia is it's they've got a nationalised NBN infrastructure. So,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm using words that probably don't mean anything in America. NBN is the National Broadband Network. So basically, the internet network in Australia is government owned or government
Hmm?
supported and sponsored. So the NBN is a private company, but it's the only company in Australia and it does all the internet infrastructure. So I'm talking about the hardwired internet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when I first got here, NBN was fairly new and just developing. Now it's pretty much everywhere. There are probably some rural locations you probably still can't get it, but in all the cities, main areas, you've got NBN, and that is a fast service, 100 gigabyte minimum, and up to 250 gigabytes in some areas, and that's the sort of base service, and it's been that way for several years. So for in a home, in a landline, in a situation like I'm in, I live in an apartment, but I've got very fast broadband in my apartment, and there's third party companies that then provide the service, but they all fix onto the NBN. It's the NBN infrastructure that supplies it, but then you buy your access package through a third party private company. And I use a company called Aussie Broadband. Um,
Mm.
the reason I like Aussie Broadband is their main selling point is that they're an Australian based company and you deal directly with Australians if you've got an issue with your service or anything like that. You ring up a company to get some support because something's not working quite the way you want. And once you've jumped through the hoops to get through the automated service, you end up speaking to John, who's obviously located in Bangalore or somewhere like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, it's horrendous. I get on Reddit and I get on all these try to find like the secret phone number. I found the secret one to my internet company and I've got it in my phone. They when I call, they're kind of surprised.
How did you get this number? Yeah, yeah. Again, it's and our mobile phone service is pretty good. So the two big providers in Australia are Telstra and Oppo, Optus, should I say, Optus, and Telstra is by far the biggest, and they've been around for a long time. So the mobile phone service is, well, extremely good and fast, a 5G service all over the country, and even in quite remote areas, you've got quite a good signal. And they now back it up, as I was saying earlier. They've got the satellite connection as well, only for text messages. But yeah, I've been on Telstra for years now, and no issues. Always got a pretty good signal most places.
Yeah.
5G signal. So yeah, our internet connection service is good, and I think the way it's going to go probably take another 5 to 10 years, but I think it's all going to eventually be up there. Satellite, SpaceX, the not SpaceX, the what's it called? God, old man's memory. The satellite system that belongs to SpaceX, Elon's Starlink. I think Starlink. It's going to be that kind of service in a few years' time. I think we'll all be connecting via satellites in the sky, and you'll probably find you'll get a Starlink connection on your phone, and you can go to any country in the world and just use the same connection because it'll all be via the satellite.
So where do you see your channel in the next couple of years?
Oh, I'm going to just sort of carry on doing the sort of roughly once a month. I put a video out once every 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm not at the stage where I'm going to be earning any money from YouTube. Um, as I said, it's more of a hobby. I enjoy doing it. What I'd like to feel is that the quality of the recording gets better, and I'm like you are, Sean. You're learning every time you put out a video. You learn a little bit more, and you learn a bit and tips and tricks. Um, I'd like to do it more often, but there is a sort of natural restriction on that for me anyway, because I'm mainly doing sort of expensive mobile devices that I have to buy with my own money. So there is a limit to how much I can spend. And funnily enough, I did actually get offered once OnePlus. I'd reviewed one of their phones, and I'd got in touch with them to get some information about what the next one that was coming out. They actually offered me one uh, free, or not free, as a loan to review. Um, and this shows what a saint I am. I actually turned it down. I said no because my whole shtick, my channel is that I buy it with my own money, and I don't want to go down the route. So that was an easy thing to say at the time. Now I kind of think, oh, maybe I should have accepted. But I do quite like the idea of there are the wonderful YouTube channels like Marcus's where they do in-depth reviews and they do incredible benchmarking and all this kind of thing on the mobile phones. Um, it's not really an area I want to get into. So I'd rather they did that, the early reviews with all the technical details, like we've just recently had with the launch of the Steam machine. I'll get my Steam machine, I'll use it for a month or two, and then I'll do this is what it's like if you buy one with your own money and then you use it. What's it like after a couple of months? What do I think of it? Is it worth you spending your money to buy this? So I'm going to keep doing that kind of YouTube review. What I'd like to do is just improve the production quality, if you like.
Yeah.
And that's where, this expensive device came in, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm now getting better quality footage to start with, and then I just need to learn better how to use the software and improve the way I process it after I've recorded it. And that's just,
Yeah.
as you know, it's practice. Just got to keep practicing it. If I ever stop doing what I do for my day job, then I might start doing it a bit more seriously and a bit more often,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Well, and you could also review that camera.
Yeah, I guess I can. I don't know how I'm going to film it though.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I could use this, couldn't
You just use that, yeah.
I? Yeah, I could review the camera. I'm not. Again, I've looked at camera reviews because obviously when I'm looking at this one, I looked at
Yeah.
some YouTube reviews of cameras. Um, they tend to go very technical and very in depth and all that kind of thing. So maybe I think what I might do, one of the things I thought I might do is a retrospective of the lessons I've learned putting my YouTube channel together and all the money I wasted on all the bits of equipment that I thought was going to be the right piece of equipment for the job, and then turned out not to be as good, or maybe I just didn't use it right. I don't know. But
Right.
I've been through a lot of equipment over the
Yeah.
last 12 months. And if I could save someone else having to go through that, then I will. So I might do a YouTube about these are the mistakes to try and avoid if you can. Try and do these things and not these things. At least
Yeah.
that's what's worked for me. You know.
No, I think that's a good video. I was thinking about doing something semi-similar, but more in the lines of like what I actually use and what I don't, and like and why I don't use it and why it's still a good thing for some people, but for me, it's just kind of wasted space.
Well, maybe it's something you and I can collaborate on. So maybe we
There you
can
go.
both go through our own bit of equipment and then have like a
Yeah.
talking head overview and
There
both
you
sort
go.
of, yeah, I've tried this worked great, but I tried this and
Yeah.
it was a little bit, even
Yeah.
simple things like trying to work out the lighting, what lights to use. And I made mistakes and I bought the wrong things. And I had this wonderful Amaran light that everyone said was the bee's knees, the best thing. This is what you need. And I'd been using it for 6, 7 months. And I still look very washed out and very thin. And you know what it was at the end of the day? It was because
Yeah.
I was using it with the projector screen it came with, and that was the
Uh-huh.
wrong one. They said, no, what you need is this cone one with a filter on the front. And the light was perfect. It was just an attachment that went on it. I put that attachment on, and suddenly, wow, great lighting. You're not seeing it today because I'm not using any lighting. I'm just sat in front of my monitor.
Yeah, that's one thing that I still need to pay figure out. Not for my dog podcast, but for my talking head, my this channel when I'm not doing an interview. I don't really worry about the interviews. It's kind of a stripped down, informal thing. But in my talking heads, I'd rather be a little bit more mood lighting, and so you're not getting too much of the background. And yeah,
That's why I bought that camera, and that's why I bought the Sony and that lens, because that
yeah,
does the depth of field gives you that sort of blurry background, so it's focused more on your face and on your upper body. And then the other thing I've learned is about that having that three-quarters light on your face, and then I use these sort of these lights to go to the side or behind my head, and with these ones you can put on different colors and things, so
yeah,
you can put a sort of backlight behind your head,
yeah.
and it's all really just learning. And the first couple of times I do it, you know, I look like Donald Trump. I was so orange.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, my last
exactly.
video I did, I made them as you don't realize until after you've filmed it, because when you're looking at yourself filming it, you've only got a tiny little screen that's 2 meters away from you. You don't really see what you look like when you're then on a TV screen or on a
Yeah.
laptop screen.
Yeah.
And I was wearing this green top, which was a very nice green. But the trouble is, when I played the video back afterwards, I've got a bit of a green tint to my face because it's reflecting off the shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
We live and we learn.
Yeah.
So I was on a reality TV show. It was broadcast in 2017, the year I arrived in Australia. There's a television program in the United Kingdom called Wanted Down Under.
Mm.
Basically, it's for people who are thinking of emigrating to Australia, and the
Oh.
BBC, they film you and your journey in the UK, and then for a week in Australia, going around and finding out about Australia, and then they show this program on the TV. So basically, my girlfriend at the time had applied to go on this show because she was interested in moving to Australia as well, and I didn't think we'd ever get in, but they actually accepted us. And so they turned up and they filmed us first in the UK, but then they flew us out to Australia. And basically, we had a film crew following us around for a whole week, everywhere, all day. So everywhere we went. And for when it's eventually put on the TV on the BBC, the show is 40 minutes in length. And they film probably about 2 weeks solid video just to get 40
Wow.
minutes. So that's how much they
Insane.
cut out just to end up with a 40-minute show.
Yeah.
And yeah, that you'd think after that, with that experience, I'd have learned so much more about it before doing my YouTube channel. But you forget more than you learn. And they're professionals. You know, we had a
Yeah.
professional camera crew, we had professional
Yeah.
sound recording, lighting, the whole works. You know, so very, and we had a director who was telling us what to do, and yeah,
Yeah.
it was an
Yeah.
experience. Multiple takes.
Yeah.
We'd film a bit, and then the director say, "Right, we're just going to film that again. We're going to adjust the camera slightly. We're going to do this." I'll tell you what was well, I laughed about it. It was probably not funny for my partner at the time. So there's one section of this where they have been and met your family and friends in the UK, and they filmed some footage of them. And if you move to Australia, what would they miss, and all this sort of thing? And what would you miss about your family and friends you're leaving behind? And what they do is they sit you in front of the TV in the room in the house where they've rented for us, we're staying, and they put up a couple of cameras and they film us watching video of our family and how they're going to miss us, you know. So it's a tearjerker
Yeah.
type thing. So they
Yeah.
played some video of my kids and my ex-wife and stuff like this, and friends and stuff. And I'm just sort of, oh, right, oh, that's lovely, isn't it? Nice of them to say that kind of stuff. And then they go to my partner Jane, and they film her mother and her best friend, who she's going to leave behind, and she's in floods of tears, you know, absolutely streaming down her face. Oh, I can't do this. I'm going to miss them and all that thing. Exactly what the BBC wanted.
Sure.
They wanted that drama, whereas I'm just uh, the bit that was funny, I thought anyway. They filmed all this. She's in floods of tears, and the director Dave comes up afterwards and he said, "Well done. That was brilliant, Jane. Well done. Right, we're just going to film it again from this angle." She thought, "What?
Oh.
I can't sit through that again."
Oh.
But they made her.
Wow. Sadistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's great.
Fortunately, my wife, my wife, the love of my life, Alex, she's very supportive of me doing this YouTube channel. In fact, she was the one that suggested it, as I mentioned earlier, and she's been very forgiving of me using up my time and spending my money on equipment and things like that. She's been absolutely wonderful. I couldn't have done it without her, really. So when we do the cruise, I think I'm going to try and feature her in the video as well, because I think she should be.
Yeah.